So we've just talked about salesman samples or photo samples or marketing samples or just samples in general. Pre-production also consists of prepping the costing for production. And costing is such a significant part of this whole process. You know, if people can't afford to buy your ultimate product, then what's the point? So the salesman samples or these photo samples that we keep talking about are actually the tools that a factory uses in order to give us final costs. So let's say they've sampled something 2 to 3 different times and then they go into final salesman sample. The salesman sample, as it hangs in that showroom or as it's posted on your website, is the final version of what they can expect to get as a production order. However you are showing that garment or selling that garment is ultimately what the factory is going to cost off of. So if you, for example, are showing a men's tailored coat in 100% cashmere, we know that's not going to be a cheap style, but it's just for an example. You have a cost from the factory based on all of the components of that jacket. Do the math. If something is, say, $55 to $75 a yard on 100% cashmere, and they've costed it that way. So their cost will be commensurate with the value of that garment. You therefore have a finite price that you can then translate into a selling price and to develop your markup structure. What happens in a costing meeting when you're reviewing salesman samples, you might say, you know what? When push comes to shove, I don't need 100% cashmere. I'd be okay with a little bit of it. So maybe you do an 80-20 blend or a 90-10 blend. So you say there's a little cashmere in there. It's going to be a selling feature. It'll help, you know, value up the garment. After reassessing the fiber content and adjusting the price structure, you probably could now adjust your selling price to a more affordable location, say, for the store. As opposed to a $1,200 garment, you could probably offer it for, say, $700, something like that. It's just a rough estimate, but it's really to kind of get you to understand why the salesman samples are so critical. And oftentimes we will substitute some fabric, just like every major designer does on the runway. Not everything that walks down the runway makes it into the store, and they substitute fabric that they bought at the street corner retail fabric store just to get that mesh, or just to get that embroidery, or just to get that red color collar, and they redevelop it for bulk. But the point in mentioning salesman samples and costing and cost log is so that you can establish your overall margin structure before you march down the road of production. You can make any adjustments necessary. You can edit styles out of the line. You can adjust fabric qualities like we just mentioned from, say, 100% cashmere to something that isn't such a luxurious price point. Make whatever accommodations you need to make in order to satisfy what your end use selling structure is.